Welcome to the October 6th Board of Selectmen meetings. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Sorry, I should have told you before. I just wanted to take a minute and remember Deirdre Zaccardi and family, who 1 year ago today suffered a terrible tragedy, and the whole town mourned along with them. So I just wanted to not let the anniversary go without mentioning and have a moment of silence. Thank you. Public announcements, Mike?
Nothing tonight.
Kevin?
Nothing.
Jim?
Yep.
Absentee voting. The deadline to request an absentee ballot by mail will be 5 p.m. on October 28th. The deadline to request an absentee ballot in person will remain 12 p.m. the day before the election. Mail-in or absentee ballots may be returned in person, by mail, or by secured drop box in front of Town Hall. Any voter who has returned an earlier absentee ballot that has been accepted cannot vote in person on Election Day. Voters will be able to request a hand-delivered absentee ballot if they have been admitted to a health care facility after 12 p.m. on the 7th day before an election. Voter registration for presidential election. The deadline to register to vote for the November 3rd state election will be Saturday, October 24th. Registration shall be offered from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. A table will be set up in front of Town Hall. In-person early voting, remember to wear your masks, October 17th to the 30th, Monday through Thursday, from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Friday will be 8:30 to 12:30. Saturday, October 17th and October 24th, 2 to 6 p.m. And Sunday, October 18th and 25th, 2 to 6 p.m. at the Town Office Building.
Thank you. Alex?
Yes, I have a letter here from the Abington Public Library Board of Trustees that was written actually to Chris Schultz, Chairman of the Abington Board of Health, and copied to the Board of Selectmen. I'd like to read it. The members of the Board of Library Trustees and Library Director Deborah Gimmett wants you and the other members of the Board of Health to know that we very much appreciate the knowledge and expertise of Public Health Director Marty Golightly. Marty's help has been invaluable as we navigate the uncharted territories of providing library service under COVID-19 protocols. His calm demeanor, steady manner, kindness, and concern for both library borrowers and the staff have helped us minimize public health risks and still achieve our primary mission of providing physical borrowing of books and limited computer access for the residents. The Abington Public Library is ahead of the curve in providing open browsing for the patrons. We were one of the only about 20 public libraries in the state that were open for browsing in July and August. Many patrons, especially senior citizens, have mentioned how important being able to browse the shelves of the books and select books to borrow is to their mental health. We are grateful to Marty's assistance, which helps us meet the needs of the residents. With kind regards, Henry DiCarlo, Chairman, Board of Library Trustees. And I'd just like to mention also, I've had the opportunity to call Marty at least twice during this COVID pandemic, and he gets back to everyone. I've had restaurant owners call me and tell me how efficient he's been and how good he's been with everybody. So thank you, Marty, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Alex. I just had one announcement. I wanted to congratulate our new town manager, Scott Lambiase, on his degree, which enacted the part of his contract that takes away the acting word out of the title. So not that you're getting any more money or anything, or you actually have to do more work now. So. No, but
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank
I know
you.
it's not easy. All right, we don't quite have the 6:40 time for the public hearing, so if we wanted to skip ahead, we could do the approval of the minutes, if everybody's okay with that.
Do we have any public comment? You want to do that?
Oh, all right, I skipped, sorry, thank you, Alex. I skipped over the public comment. If anybody has comment for, about anything on today's agenda and would like to speak about it, please feel free to come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of September 28th.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes of September 28th meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Scott, do you have a CARES Act funding update? Is that quick?
Hi.
Hi.
All right, so we've been originally allocated $2.275 million. Our first submission was on 7/14 for 570. It was a little bit more than that, but they excluded some of our submissions because they considered it budgeted items. So we have 579,448 in our first submission. Our second submission was submitted on Saturday for another 921, which includes purchase orders that were that are out there. So it's earmarking the money. So our total requested to date is 1.5, and the remainder of the money is $775,000, and we're anticipating, based on the request by the departments, that we will reach that number, if not a little bit more, by December of December 30th of 2020. And if other towns are not anticipating on spending what was allocated to them, Plymouth County is going to reallocate to the towns that do need it. So that's where we stand right now.
Sue, do you know when the deadline is for the next submission?
The deadline
final-
for the final submission is October 30th.
October
So you
30th.
have to have not purchase orders and what you think you're gonna spend out, plus what you have in place. But
Okay.
the deadline for actually presenting all your invoices is December 30th.
Okay. So the department would have to get it to you before October 30th?
Correct, which they all have. I was just
Yep.
waiting for a few things today. I was telling Scott that. And so I will let them know what our expected expenditures will be through December 30th by tomorrow afternoon.
Great.
And we are working, and I think that we are able to acquire some permit tracking software and software that would allow us, allow people to come and do stuff online,
Great.
so we can avoid people coming into town hall. So we're hoping to get that and actually get that reimbursed. So I think that'll happen. We're working towards it.
Excellent.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
The Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on October 6, 2020, at 6:40 in the Cotter Hearing Room, 500 Glenwood's Way, to transfer the commercial garage license at 800 Adams Street from Robert Scales to, forgive me, I'm going to butcher the name, John Pires, maybe? DBA Collision Craftsman. Is there a representative here? Welcome, guys. Come on up to the microphone. What's your name?
John Pyrus.
John? So you're receiving the license,
Correct.
both of you guys?
He is my employee.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
He's my employee.
Employee, okay, thank you, sir. And this is the commercial garage, 800 Adams Street, collision craftsman. So you're just transferring the license, you currently work there?
Yeah, I purchased the business.
Oh, okay. Cars for repair, 5, customer spaces, 4, employee spaces, 2. Is this any different from what's
Nope,
currently
everything's
there?
the same.
Hours of operation, 8 to 5, Saturday by appointment, is that the same?
Correct,
And Sunday's blank, I assume that means closed?
correct.
Any questions from the board?
We have all the inspections, everything looks good.
Any questions or comments from any abutters or members of the public? Okay, that said, I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor, seconded, right?
Yes, Alex.
All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Unanimous. Take a motion on the license.
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the license transfer, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Awesome. Do you guys need a copy of the receipt of the certified mail? He
The,
asked me
I
to bring
think
it.
we need that in the file, yes.
their man,
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
thanks. The Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on October 6, 2020 at 6:45 in the Cotter Hearing Room, 500 Glenart's Way, to transfer the commercial garage license for 2 repair bays at 120 Plymouth Street from Skilling's Auto Sales to Adam Davenport, DBA Adams Automotive. Take a motion to open that hearing.
I make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing's open. Do we have Adam Davenport? Come on up, Adam. Welcome. What are we doing at 120 Plymouth Street?
General auto repair. We're transferring the licensing for 2 bays. There's 3 existing bays, and I'm leasing 2 bays.
So the used car lot is keeping 1 bay and you're leasing 2?
Correct. And I'm not affiliated with car sales or anything like that, just strictly repair.
So what's he doing with his bay?
Small stuff on his used car stuff.
So he doesn't need a commercial garage license for that?
Oh, I believe that it's gonna continue to stay on that bay.
If we transfer the license to you, he can't... Stop me if I'm wrong, anybody.
It can't be a transfer, it would have to be a new license for the other 2 bays, wouldn't it? It's a separate business, correct?
Correct.
You're not affiliated with him in any way. He's going to continue to do repairs.
Used cars and
Yeah.
repairs in 1 bay.
So if he transfers his license to you,
He can't do it.
then he can't do any repairs.
Okay, so I need to apply. I mean, this is all new to me, I've been fixing.
I don't want to transfer his license
I don't
without
either.
him here.
I don't either, no.
If there's any
Yeah,
confusion,
so,
we can continue this hearing
Okay,
without voting on it. And then if you want to square that away with him, have him call, just so there's no confusion.
yes, I don't want to
well,
take.
I think he would have to file a new application for a new commercial garage license.
If
For the
that's what
2
he's
bays,
doing.
if that's, yeah.
Okay, who would I speak to? That would be in this building, correct?
Nancy,
Okay, that's who I spoke
Yeah,
with, and I was
yeah.
advised to go this route. Okay, maybe we missed the details then.
yeah, she probably thought that it was, the used car was staying just used cars and you were taking over the garage.
Which
I'm
could be the case, like if he's just using it to wash car, I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean,
I'm pretty sure he'll be doing some
He's
small repairs
doing
on his own
repairs,
cars.
okay.
I mean, not commercial, but his own stuff, you know what I mean?
okay, so I don't know if that's the same, like, I don't want to do
So-
anything that gets you in
So it
trouble.
sounds-
So,
It
hold
sounds
on.
like we should amend the license that's existing to be one bay for one bay.
Is there a commercial garage license on the property?
Yes.
There is, okay. So there's a Class 2 license and a commercial garage.
So I think what they want to do is keep one bay under the old business, and then 2 bays will be for you.
Correct.
So I think what they'll have to do is amend the license that's there to read for one.
I'm not sure if the used car lot actually needs a commercial garage license.
They don't,
Right, he's allowed to repair his own vehicles because it's not a commercial repair shop.
if he's just doing his own vehicles.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think we should continue.
So-
And we'll straighten it out.
So if that's the case, then we probably can transfer the commercial repair license and not the used car license. The used car license would stay where it is. He's allowed to repair his own vehicles, I believe, without a commercial garage license.
As long as he's not charging for the repairs.
Right. And transfer the license, like Nancy said, to him, but he's only taken 2 bays. So actually, thinking about it, I think we can move forward
If
with
that's-
this.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
I don't want to, I mean, if he has the chance to do a retail repair, I don't want to
Okay.
hinder that, you know what I mean? So
Why don't we continue this to our next meeting?
I think that would be best.
Well,
If that's-
actually, the next meeting will be special town.
Oh, so-
we're talking first week in November,
First
or
week of
second
November.
week.
Second
Monday.
Monday in November.
Second Monday in November, let's get the date for the motion.
Is that good with you?
That works.
Okay.
So if you want to make the motion, Alex, that Monday, November 9th.
I would make a motion to continue this hearing to Monday, November 9th, at a time specified in the agenda.
Is there a second? Jim seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of continuing the hearing to Monday, November 9th?
Aye.
Aye.
That doesn't hurt you at all? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. Just,
great.
if he was here, we could clear it up real quick, but I don't want any confusion to hinder it. So we'll put it on for November 9th. Everything in the paperwork is checked out. I can't speak for the board, but it should be.
Yeah, and you don't have to advertise because it's continued. So,
Okay, all right, very good.
okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's too steamy or not.
Figure it all out, save it for the next meeting.
This is the one that we're doing too, right? Cotter.
Yeah,
I didn't get one.
yeah, you got a 650,
You get one?
655,
Especially,
but yeah, you should do, I think you should
Yes.
just open them both together.
Right. Why? Okay, so the Board of Selectmen will be holding a public meeting on October 6th at 6:50 in the Cotter Hearing Room, 500 Glenwood's Way, to adopt the order layout of Belcher Street as a public way, and the other one
Cookway.
with it is Cookway is a public way. All is shown on a plan entitled Roadway Acceptance Layout Plan dated February 13th, 2020, prepared by Silva Engineer and Associates. Plans are available for viewing with the town clerk. Motion to open the meeting.
Make a motion to open the meeting.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's open. All right, Scott, so what are we doing here? We're doing
I think we have a representative from the planning board here
The two.
who would
We
like.
do.
Wayne Smith, Abington Planning Board, Chair, 120 Summit Road, Abington. The first article that will be in the town warrant, if you want me to speak from that point, we're going to combine Article 2 and 3, so that it'll be one article for Belcher and Cook Way. I don't know how to go about this. You need to hold a hearing. We've had a vote on it, and then we present it to you. There's a whole list of things which I'm sure Scott can fill you in on. I have a paper on it if you want me to go over it, but it's probably not necessary. But you need to make a recommendation to the town. The planning board will make a motion. Within 100, if the town votes to accept the roadway with a 2/3 vote, then within 120 days, you need to file the papers with the Registry of Deeds. And I'm sure Scott knows all that.
And basically, right now, we're at the point where last week, our last meeting, you voted to send these to the planning board and get a recommendation from them. He's here to give us their recommendation. Upon a favorable recommendation, the selectmen will motion and presumably motion to adopt the order of layout and file the layout with the town clerk. So we'll take it, the next step after tonight, if it's approved, goes down to the town clerk, gets on to town meeting, and then after that, they have X amount of days for them to present and for us to accept the easements.
And we've have letters and so forth from the town engineer that we hire that reviews them. On these in this particular case, this is PMP, and it's a little different. The motion will be a little different than what you see in the warrant. Would you like me to read that?
Sure.
To see if the town will vote to accept as public ways the roadways known as Belcher Street and Cook Way, as heretofore laid out by the Board of Selectmen and shown on a plan of land entitled Roadway Acceptance Layout Plan, dated February 13th, 2020, prepared by Sylvia Engineer Associates, Incorporated, and on file with the town clerk, and authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, and/or eminent domain the fee to and/or easements in Belcher Street and Cook Way for all purposes for which public ways are used in the town of Abington, and any drainage, utility, and other easements related thereto, or take any other action thereto.
In the planning board's recommendation,
Actually, I can make the motion if you wish, or if the selectmen want to make the motion from the town floor, they can. I don't see it was a problem either way. But that's how we would present that particular one. The other one, which is the next one that comes along, in fact, am I going ahead of myself?
Yeah, I think right now,
Yeah.
we'll start
we'll
cooking out.
And
But,
there may be some questions or something I can answer.
but so the planning board did vote in favor.
Vote was unanimous.
okay. So then, do you want to read that motion again and see? This is the motion we're looking for from the board.
Yeah, so the selectmen will vote to adopt the order of layout and file the layout with the town clerk. Order of layout of Belcher Street and Cook Way, whereas the Board of Selectmen of the town of Abington, acting pursuant to General Law, Chapter 82, subsections 21 through 24, having deemed that common convenience and necessity require the acceptance of Belcher Street and Cook Way as town ways, hereby lays out the Belcher Street and Cook Way as public ways, all as shown on the plan referenced below. And whereas the boundaries of the layout of Belcher Street and Cook Way are shown on a plan entitled Roadway Acceptance Layout Plan dated February 13th, 2020, prepared Silva Engineering Associates Incorporated, which plan was referred to the planning board and which plan is hereby adopted as a part of this order, and all land lying within the layout of Belcher Street and Cook Way are hereby laid out as public ways. The aforementioned plan is hereby forwarded to the town clerk for filing, and the foregoing layout is hereby reported to the town for acceptance. Adopted this date 2020. Town of Abington Board of Selectmen.
I would make that motion.
I'm gonna need you to repeat that verbatim.
What he said.
Motion's made, is there a second?
I second
Any further discussion?
Was this from the annual town meeting? Was this a carryover?
Yes.
So,
yes.
okay, so these are
We
the
didn't do
same-
any of the zoning or planning things on the
So
town
the
meeting.
petitions stay the same from the
Yes.
annual, not the special?
Yeah, we did check with that.
Okay, I
Yep.
just want to make sure that we're.
No, everything was good. I actually, that was a question I did ask town council.
Right, because special needs 100 and there's 10, but because it was annual
Because
carryover, it's
It
it was carried over specifically by the selectmen.
Yeah.
perfect.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? The Board of Selectmen will hold a public meeting on October 6, 2020 at 7 PM in the Cotter Room, 500 Glenwood Way, to adopt the order layout of Crabtree Lane as a public way. From its intersection with the accepted portion of Crabtree Lane to Shar Avenue, all is shown on a plan entitled Roadway Acceptance Plan, Crabtree Lane, STA 0+00 to STA 12+00, dated July 30th, 2020, revised through August 20th, 2020, prepared by Site Tech, Inc. All plans are available for viewing with the town clerk. A motion to open that.
Make a motion, to open the hearing.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of opening the hearing?
Aye.
Unanimous, hearing's open. So do you want to speak on this one? This is the Crabtree Lane one now?
Basically, similar to what the other one was. The reason that this subdivision has more than one street on it, and so we're just addressing the Crabtree Lane portion of it, from Station 00 to 1200 00.
And again, you voted in favor of,
Voted in favor of it, yes, unanimous.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
Does this section of Crabtree, does it include that emergency use
Yes.
section?
Yes.
And in the layout, is that emergency use section, is it listed word for word in there that it's an emergency use only, that section of the,
Is it listed what?
is it listed that it's an emergency use only?
It's on the original, on the plans.
That's, okay, I just want to make sure it's listed in the plans, that that section is only emergency use.
yep, and that'll remain. This doesn't change anything. And quite frankly, we don't have the ability to change anything within that plan. In now or in the future, it would have to be an action of the planning board. And I'm not even sure how they would get it in front of the planning board.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that you couldn't have a town meeting vote or,
I don't think so.
I don't know. That's news to me, but that may be so.
May I ask a question?
Please just step up, say your name and the address, please.
My name is Brian Asplund. I live at 78 Crabtree. My question was pertaining to the emergency access only. I actually live right beside the emergency access, as do the Sweeneys that are over here as well. Recently, they put in a temporary, kind of like a chain, like a plastic chain, in order to stop the traffic that's been driving up and down it. Is there any plan to be able to do something on a more permanent basis? Or is that something that we have to go to the planning board in order to kind of look at a more permanent solution for it?
There's nothing in our office right now.
Yeah, that's something that, we'll discuss in the future. Right now, we're just dealing with this as the road layout. I think in the near future, if it is accepted by the town, and town meeting accepts it, and all the easements go through, the police chief, the deputy police chief, the fire chief, myself, DPW, we'll get together and probably talk to some of the neighbors and have them involved with whatever a permanent solution would be.
That would be fantastic.
Right now, we don't actually even own the property.
No,
No,
no.
okay, I
So,
do-
yeah.
So we really can't.
Yeah, we can only, right now, we can really only address dealing with the layout.
Not a problem at all. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Rick Collins, 74 Orange Street. I'm a member of the planning board. And this is part of our discussion last night. we heard from a resident concerned that there had been no trespassing signs put up there, and I believe that's because technically it's still privately owned. However, the question was after the town takes possession of it, and the gate is up there and it says no traffic, no whatever the exclusion sign reads. Does that mean people can't walk through it or ride their bikes through it?
We did not put up, we didn't put those signs up. That was not done by the town.
I know, but I'm just saying that when those come down, when the town takes possession of it, are people able to walk through or ride their bikes through?
Absolutely.
Be public property,
It'd be just like any other street.
They
They'd
just
be
can't
able to
drive a
walk it.
vehicle?
Correct.
Just can't drive through it.
Okay.
Unless you are police or fire,
Emergency use.
emergency use.
Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Do you want to read, is there a long,
happy to
long
read it.
motion for this?
So it'll be a motion for the selectmen to adopt the order of layout and file layout with the town clerk, order of layout of Crabtree Lane, whereas the Board of Selectmen of the town of Abington, acting pursuant to General Law, Chapter 82, subsections 21 through 24, having deemed that common convenience and necessity require the acceptance of Crabtree Lane as a town way, hereby lays out as a public way Crabtree Lane from its intersection with the accepted portion of Crabtree Lane to Shaw Avenue, all is shown as the plan referenced below. And whereas the boundaries of the layout of Crabtree Lane are shown on a plan entitled Roadway Acceptance Plan, Crabtree Lane, Station 0+00 to Station 12+00, dated July 30th, 2020, revised through August 20th, 2020, prepared by Site Tech Incorporated, which plan was referred to the planning board and which plan is hereby adopted as part of this order, and all land lying within the layout of Crabtree Lane is hereby laid out as a public way. The aforementioned plan is hereby forwarded to the town clerk for filing, and the foregoing layout is hereby reported to the town for acceptance, adopted this date 2020, Town of Abington by its Board of Selectmen.
Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion, what he said.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous?
Abstain. from-
Sorry.
I'll abstain from that one.
Okay, so that's 4 yes, 1 abstention.
Who was the abstention?
Alex Bezanza. Next up, we ask for update on the MRI study implementation from Deputy Police Chief Cotter.
I printed mine. Oh, you did? I think I'm the one who broke the printer.
Again?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have to wear this, or can I take this off?
You can take it off.
Yeah, please, so we can hear you. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So first of all, I wanted to thank the town manager for inviting me up here, and thank you guys for having me here. You know, obviously, this management study has been a long process, and you know, I'm happy to address some of the issues. I was given the authority to kind of start to look at some of these issues about 6 to 7 weeks ago. And once I was given that, I started right on some of the things to address some of the things that they identified in the study. I think it's important for me to be here, and I think it's important for our communication to be there. Obviously, I hope you know, through Scott's office that that communication will change. Better than it is today. You know, one of the management studies one of the things they talked about was our goals and objectives for my operational units. I can tell you that one of my goals and objectives, obviously, moving forward is to improve that communication. So just wanted to bring that up to you. In looking at the management study, from what, I've gone through it a multitude of times, and I've come up with what I found was 56 recommendations for the police department. And then so, and me and Scott had talked about it to break out those recommendations on things that I could deal with immediately and things that may take me a little bit of time and things that might take me a little more time than that. And that was my objective in putting this together for you guys tonight, was to just kind of break those 56 recommendations down into 3 categories. And one is immediate, things that I could take care of right away once I was given the marching orders to do that. And then something within a year, and something that one of the recommendations, or some of the recommendations that may extend out past a year. Understanding that there's variables in all that. So, something that I have down here that I can't take care of for over a year, that may be taken care of in 6 months, who knows? There's some variables that are involved in that that are difficult for me to predict at this particular point. So it's kind of just a ballpark for you guys to understand where we sit. As far as, so I'll start first with the ones that I could deal with right away. I identified 13 or 23%, and I'll just go through on the first page, out of the 56 recommendations as having the potential for an immediate fix. And, for you guys, everything has been fixed. 9 of those recommendations made by MRI at the time were already in practice for the department. So looking at the table on page 1, there were some policy revisions. Luckily, we were pretty solid on our policy development, and so there wasn't a lot of policy revisions that MRI found. The ones they did find were outside of the scope of accreditation, so those were things that were overlooked by us. And I can tell you that those policy revisions have been changed and made. There were 9 things that I identified out of those immediate things that were already in practice. Some of the things, the interviews that I had with the members of MRI, a lot of it was a phone conversation, and some of the things I forgot to tell them. So, but then having gone back through the study for a while, it became apparent that there were some that they indicated that we needed to fix, when in fact we already had that in place. There was another, changes were recommended in 5 of those situations, and again, those were fixed out of those 13. And you'll see that on the list of, so I tried to, on page 3 of the document, all those listings from 1 to 14, so I guess I'm off a number, sorry. 1 to 14 were things that were immediately were able to be fixed on by me. So those have already been taken care of. The next part, on page 2, we get into, I identified 16 out of the 56 recommendations as needing more than a couple months but less than a year. My thought is I'll probably be in a better position to make some changes to some of these things after January 1st. And so I looked at what I could take care of now and what I might need to do, or what I can do, expecting that January 1st will be a good time for me to start to implement some of the other things. But these are things that are about, I think that I can get through. There's some hurdles to overcome on some of them. And so as you will see on the chart, you'll see all the way over to the right-hand side, tasks in progress. Know that even though I don't feel that I can implement these right away, that they're going to take a little bit more work, know that I'm not sitting on my hands and not trying to take care of something. There's a lot of them there that I've begun to either think about, I've begun to look at additional policy drafting, or anything else that I can do to try to move the process along. But ultimately, I think that there might be a little bit of a delay, but not much of a delay, in getting those 16 things done. In the last chart there, I identified 18 out of the 56 that may require a little bit more than a year. And the reasoning behind these particular recommendations, some of them are just outside of my control, or my immediate control, or my department's control. So it just will take a little bit more time, I figure. But again, something on the second chart, it might take me a little longer if I run into a roadblock somewhere, or if something on the third chart, I might be able to get done quicker. But know that, again, if you look on the third chart at tasks in progress, I'm constantly looking at those tasks. You know, I would say every couple days I take out the tasks that you guys have in front of you, and I look at them to see if there's something else that I can do to start to move that along. So that's where I sit now, but I just think that third chart of those 18 is going to take a little bit of work. It's a combination of work between myself and Scott, and working together with the groups that we have to deal with to try to move those forward. So I just wanted to, the remaining pages after the tasks, I just wanted to talk about, and I didn't cover every task, but I just wanted to give you some indication of what, and these are some of the immediate things and some of the things that I'm trying to work on. But the first thing you'll see is it's just a training announcement for fair and impartial policing. Know that I'm constantly looking for training to satisfy one of the recommendations. Although we're doing some online training, it's not like I'm not doing anything. I'm trying to do some online training as much as I can. I thought this was a great opportunity for me to get 2 officers trained as instructors in fair and impartial policing. However, after I got the announcement, I think it was a day or 2 later, I went in to sign up, and my guys were waitlisted. So, you know, it's just an example of what we are trying to do as far as, you know, one of the recommendations on the study. But once I can find some more training or whatever like that, I am going to move that forward. You know, one of the recommendations, and you'll see, is there's a thing, it says a 2019 Soul Assessment Center. Know that the department is moving forward with a Sergeant's Assessment Center. In order to promote, we have 2 open positions right now. So in order to promote those 2 sergeants, we have moved away from the exam, and we're moving to a soul assessment center. It's a soul assessment center, but there is an experience and education component to it that groups all that in. So it's an assessment center. And I just figured I'd include the flow chart to kind of let you know what stage we're in now. But we do have a date planned for 11/5 for the actual assessment center. 10/8, which is coming up in a couple days. We should have, everyone should have submitted their application basically to participate in the assessment center, anybody that's interested in participating. So I'm excited about that we're going to be able to take 2 of those acting sergeant positions and finally make them permanent positions based on the assessment center. So that's moving ahead. The other thing was, you know, I just wanted to include, I have a supervisory staff meeting, and I just did it, you know, we try to have staff meetings. One of the MRI recommendations was to have staff meetings every month. Now, we had staff meetings probably every 2 to 3 months, maybe 4 months, as we, you know, in years past, but I have increased that frequency to every month. And just to give you an idea about some of the things that we are talking about and we are trying to address at the staff meeting on 10/1. And also, I included the minutes of the meeting. The Chief's Administrative Assistant, Megan Garrity, did a great job in taking notes for us at the staff meeting. And so just to give you an idea of some of the things that we are trying to address down at the police department, I included them for you. The other thing you'll see, and you can go through this on your own time, but the other thing is you just see training records. You know, one of the recommendations was to document all our training in one location, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware that we are doing that. And I just included a front sheet of my training. This goes back to the year 2000, but so it's at least back to then that we've been tracking training for each and every officer, and it's in a central location. On our computer, our hard drives at the station. And another thing I wanted to throw in there was solvability factors. Know that we are using solvability factors, and these are some of those, again, those immediate fixes that have been done. We have been using solvability factors for a while. It's been something that I've been trying to implement. You know, everything, with every change comes there's a learning curve there, and I've been trying to get through the supervisors down to the offices to start to use solvability factors more. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of it now. It's probably been a push for the last 2 or 3 years to try to get offices to use the solvability factors and to begin to break down the cases using the solvability factors and to discuss where that case goes If there's a high solvability factor, how much time are we putting into that? If it's a low solvability factor, how much time are we putting into that case? And/or what level of investigation we're putting on it, whether it's being assigned to the detective that we have or whether it's being handled by patrol. So those are some of the things that we do use, and we do have a case management policy and case management software to go through that. And not the final thing, but the other thing you'll see is a line inspection report. I know one of the things that they brought up was, supervisors should be doing inspections of cruises. And I only included this, I know it's a simple thing, but I only included this because this is one of those things that I forgot that my lieutenant does on a monthly basis. And you can see that we've separated, line inspections are separated out. And so each person that's responsible for that particular area in the department does line inspections. And this is a monthly thing. And you will notice that it's a little cut off, but you will notice that cruises are one of the things that does get checked on a monthly basis by my lieutenant. So, and you'll also see some of the notes over there. If there's any problems, it's a good opportunity for me to be able to look at, something that I may not have noticed, if there's a drain clogged in this particular case, or if there's anything else going on in the department for the building, or anything else that I need to concentrate on addressing. And the final page was just on, they talked about community policing and tracking community policing hours, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that we do that. We're very active in the community. I can say in 2020, it's been a little difficult to be active in the community because of the whole COVID thing. And I'll talk about it in another example, but as far as our community policing activities, those have been difficult for us. Because, basically everything was shut down and it was difficult for us to get out there and do anything. But know that those hours are being tracked as far as through this is our in-house software system that tracks all the hours for all the calls that we go on. So with that, I know I'm a fast talker. If there's any questions or anything else about a particular part or recommendation that you want some more explanation on, feel free to fire it off to me.
Questions from the board?
I just got one. How do you assign training? How are they selected to go to training? Who's picked, or is it rotating, or?
So that was one of the recommendations, and that's something that I'm looking to improve. I mean, I think that there has to be, it can't just be me picking you because I like you, Kevin. There has to be some type of vetting process on, one, is the training needed? Two, who's getting the training? And so that's something that I definitely want to look at. And that's one of those things that I think that as I move forward after January 1st, that, I'd like to, the management study talks about a committee, and I think that would be an interesting idea for me to have, maybe a sergeant and maybe a patrolman, or a couple patrolmen or a couple sergeant, but mix it up a bit and have them looking at who they think, or make a recommendation as far as who should go to training. Know that my personal opinion is that it shouldn't be given out based on, hey, I'm going to give you the training for no reason at all. I think there should be some basis for that, okay. And that's something that I'd look to improve. But right now, we give out training the way, kind of dependent on maybe who's working on it. Sometimes it's given out because of interest, yeah. And I know that some of that stuff will still happen. I mean, we have some things that take place within the department, and there just isn't a lot of interest in it. And then in those cases, well, then heck, we can go ahead and give it to the one person that might have the interest or whatever else. But that needs to be relooked at and it needs to be reevaluated, and I hope to change that, so.
Okay.
Your officers that were waitlisted, was that because of COVID, or?
No, it's just that there was such a demand to sign up for that program. One of the big things was it was free. It was through the MPTC, the Municipal Police Training Committee. So
Everybody wants it.
It was free training, yeah, and everyone signed up for it. They just beat me to it. So I've been waitlisted for November 4th. I think the class was on November 4th. The two officers have been notified, so I'm hoping that maybe someone drops out and that we can get them in there. And then it's a train-the-trainer program, so they will then come back and do my whole department. But again, I'm not leaving it alone. We're trying to do some of that training with online training of various aspects. It's already been assigned. Some of the guys have completed it and things like that. So,
Thank you.
As you've gone through and implemented some of these changes, have you noticed, just gut feeling, any improvement in morale, no difference, less?
I think so. I think, as much as it's only been small changes that have been made, but I really do think, I had someone come up to me just the other day, yesterday, and talk about the staff meetings. And they said to me, hey, Chris, you know what, I see this particular officer said, I think that we needed that. And he goes, the staff meeting was great because my supervisors are all invested in the department, and it's great to watch them all sit there and look at how they can do the job better. So that's just one example, but I think it's had an impact, as small as that is. Some of these other things, they're not really seeing yet. I think that when I get into that short term, probably, a January 1st to less than a year time frame, I think you're going to see a lot of improvement. I think these guys are going to get to see what we can do down there. I'm excited about the opportunity to restructure the department. Like, you will see that a lot of those recommendations have to do with structuring, and so, and in fact, I looked up it's an org chart today that I'm playing with and I'm trying to do, but those are the big things that you're going to see. If I can create some more positions, if not bodies on the job, but if I can create some more specialist positions and things like that, I think that will have a huge impact in trying to increase morale. So I think we're moving in that direction. I really do, but I think that it's going to take a little bit of time, but not much. I mean, I'm hoping that the restructuring. I'm hoping that my own goal is to get that done January, February timeframe. There's some things I got to, there might be a hurdle or two that I have to overcome. It may push it out a little bit further, but my goal is like a January, February timeframe to restructure, put people in place where similar to what the MRI study suggested, and I think that will be a huge thing. So I think we're going to see a little bit more of that as we go, so.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned the staff meeting. I was reading the minutes to that, and that's a great place to start, I think.
Yeah.
I think that we'll give the officers a lot of ownership and with the specialty positions like you were talking about.
Yeah, and I think there's some things, me and the chief have two different management styles. I mean, we always have. The thing is, I've worked with the chief since, I've worked with the chief for 30 years. But we definitely have different management styles, and I think that my management style is going to be a little more less centralized and a little more participatory with the rest of the department, and I think that's going to go a long way, as you said, to give some ownership. I mean, we talk about the staff meetings. I mean, we're transitioning into it, but my goal is to eventually the staff should be doing more of the talking at the staff meeting. They should be having the ownership in the things, not so much of me. You'll see that as DC in those minutes is me, but there'll be topics that I need to discuss. But my hope is that I bring the staff together, and they're holding their own staff meeting because they're vested in the department, and they really are. I was my last two staff meetings, September 1st and October 1st. I was pleasantly surprised at the amount of involvement that the sergeants and the other supervisor brought to the meetings. So I'm excited about the changes that can take place. I really am. So.
Anything else?
So, accreditation, I know they touched on it. I know I think Abington is a state level accreditation, but they talked about a national CALIA maybe.
Yes.
Have you looked at that at all, or is that something that is attainable for the department, do you think?
I definitely think it's attainable. To what priority we put it on.
Definitely be further out.
So you'll see, I think, accreditation or the CALIA accreditation, I extended out past the year because, it's like, Alex, you can relate to this. It's like building a house, right? I got to get the foundation in place.
Yep.
And before I can start worrying about putting the trim on. And I think that, a CALIA accreditation is almost a trim at this stage. We're mass accredited, which puts us above the bar as far as departments in the state of Massachusetts. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I'm going to throw out that maybe there's 80 departments that are accredited out of 351 communities and other police departments and colleges and whatever else. So I think we're a little above the bar in being mass accredited, but yes, it's definitely attainable. I mean, accreditation, when I started working on accreditation, I really brought it from not being certain, so there's a couple different stages, but I brought it from nothing, well, not nothing, because I had a great sergeant that was working on it prior to me, and he did most of the groundwork and the grunt work, and then I just put on the finishing touches to get certified, and then we got accredited. I think from the time that we got certified to accreditation, we were talking about a year and a half, and I think CALIA is attainable. I just think that at this point, my goal really is to restructure, and then when I can restructure and if I can make all that work, then it's definitely going to be a case of, hey, let's start to pluck away at it. It might take some time.
How often is the mass accreditation now?
How often? We get reaccredited every 3 years.
3 years.
And so we're up for reaccreditation in February. I think I actually have the date, like February 5th.
And is there a chance that department employees can go be like guest auditors, if you will, at other accreditations to get training, or?
Yes, so right now, so we have, Sergeant McCullum is an assessor.
Okay.
And he has been trained to go out to other departments. I think he's only done one. I'm an assessor. I've gone out to quite a few different departments. So in the last year or so, I've been trying to step away from accreditation, the accreditation process anyways. And I've been trying to, delegate that out to Sergeant McCullum. So Sergeant McCullum has been to some of the assessments. But yes, so the whole process is, we donate our assessors to go out to other departments, and then when we need our reaccreditation, they come to our departments, so.
I just think it's a great way for people to get out and see how other departments do things and build bonds.
Exactly, let me stress that, like, I'll go and do an assessment. For me personally, I think I still have the notes under in my phone. And you're writing down a different standard, and you're like, oh, geez, wait a second, I need to check this to make sure that we're up to par. But the other thing is, like, just on forms, like, hey, wait a second, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
They give me a form, sorry. So definitely, and it's been great for me to see how these other departments run, and just like with training, if I go to a place and I can find something that's positive and bring it back to the department, I've always tried to do that. It's never been me to go to a training course or anything else and sit there and not bring something back from the department. From a day's training to 3 days worth of training, you can always come back with something. But the assessments are a great way to do that, and I encourage that. So Sergeant McCullum is the only one right now that's certified. But obviously, as I begin to step away from that process, then he's going to take on more of a role of that. Even this reaccreditation, him and Officer Davern, Joe Davern, Joe stepped up and said, hey, I'll help out with accreditation. So Sean and Joe are pretty much going to run the assessment, our own assessment. And then obviously, this will be the first one with me not having. Sergeant McCullum did a lot of the work last assessment 3 years ago, and each time I want to step away a little bit more. But this one, I'm hoping that Sergeant McCullum and Joe Davern, Sergeant Davern, will be able to work through most of that, and I think they will. I mean, they're both very competent, and they're both very eager. The two of them happen to be out of work right now, so right now I'm tasked with I'm back looking through the stuff, but they're both due back soon, so I'm looking forward to that.
If you could just update us, I know it's not really much on this, speaking of them being out,
Yes.
what are we budgeted for? How many officers do we have? How many are out?
Yes, so right now we have, I believe there's 30 positions budgeted. And we have 4 officers currently enrolled in a police academy. We have 2 down in Plymouth, 1 up in Reading, and 1 over in Randolph. So we have 1 open position right now, and we're in the process of trying to fill that now.
So those 4 would make up the 29 then?
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. So right now, the only spot that we don't have specifically filled with a name is 1 position.
Okay.
And we're in the process of doing that. So
And how many, are there any out long-term?
the only long-term, we have 1 officer that's out for military leave.
Okay.
And he's been out for long-term. He's been out probably 3 years, I'm going to guess. So he's long-term. We just got back Officer Lesage, if he sees this, thanks for your service, Tom. But Tom just came back. He was off. He was gone for, I'm going to guess, 6 to 7 months, pretty much through the whole COVID incident.
Yep.
He was activated. So right now, he just came back. We got a couple out short-term, but nothing
serious.
long-term
So-
other than.
So we should be at full budgeted staff
We should be.
fairly soon.
Yeah, so, and that's one of those things that's one of those variables that comes into play with restructuring.
Right.
Like, when I'm looking at trying to restructure and change the way we structure the department, it's imperative for me to make sure that I have the bodies.
Right.
I can't do it without the bodies. So if something goes awry, right now, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to have, these people are, we got 1 coming out of the academy in a couple weeks, I think towards the end of October. And then I got 2 that will be probably coming out, I think, January timeframe, and then I got another one that will be coming out February, March timeframe. If we can hold on at that point, I should have the bodies, or at least that's what I'm looking at, to have those bodies to do that restructuring. But yeah,
Great.
so we should be in a pretty good spot. We might have one in an academy, that would be about it. So
Great.
yeah, so it's definitely looking up. I'm ecstatic about the way things are looking as we move forward.
Do you remember what the high staffing mark was years ago? Have we got back to that?
Well, we had 31, and that, I think
31,
the
yeah.
chief was talking about that's where we were at, and that's where, and I think we both feel confident that that's where we need to be, is at 31.
So we're back,
So we're
pretty much
one,
back to,
but
yeah.
you know, I know that, you know, the chief, I don't have much experience with the budget at this particular point. The chief pretty much handles that stuff. I'm hoping, you know, we've been talking, and he's been showing me some of the things with the budget, but I'm hoping that at some point we can get back to that. I mean, I think that's a small hurdle to overcome, one position. I mean, we were
Right.
down more positions than that. And,
Exactly.
And we have, you know, clawed and fought our way uphill to get to where we are now. So I'm feeling pretty good at where we are.
Good.
So,
I know, I was surprised by how many recommendations MRI put forth.
yes.
And I know it's a daunting task, but I'm impressed by your enthusiasm and your dedication to it so far.
Well, thank you, Jim.
And I hope you continue. I hope you accomplish all this. I know you're gonna need help from the town. Some of this stuff takes town meeting.
Yep.
Hopefully, it won't take too long. We'll get it all squared
No.
away. Get
And
all of them implemented.
Yeah, and know that I'm working on it. And so there, if it's in progress and I can't make it, you know, as soon as I got the marching orders to work on this, you know, I worked on it immediately. I mean, as much as I can get these done, I'll get them done. It's just some things that are taking time. I mean, I have a meeting tomorrow that I hope that with that meeting, maybe I can knock off one other thing that I have in the less than a year, but not immediately. So I'm hoping that happens tomorrow. It probably won't, but I'm hopeful, and but I think that over time we're going to get there, and I think that you know, even if we don't get to all of them, you know, there's some things in there that, you know, I still have to weigh whether it's something that, you know, fits for our department. You know, one of the things I'll bring up is, and I put it into the long term was, you know, the MRI made the recommendation, and you'll see it. I put it, started down the bottom, but one of the things was like low-level reporting through the website. You know, that's a change for our department. Like, we have always been a service-oriented police department. And what MRI is suggesting is that, hey, maybe we should start telling people that, hey, look, you need to, here's our website, and you can file your report here. I mean, does that free up some of my offices and things like that? Yes, it does. But do I lose some of the service end of things that I'm so proud of this department to be able to do? That's what I lose. Like, you know, there's big city departments out there that you don't see a police officer. And so there's a few things there that I really need to put some thought into to say, is that something that's the direction that we want this department in Abington to go to? I mean, that one particular recommendation, personally right now, I'm saying no. We're not to the point that I need to start having people just shoot off an email and file a report and not be able to speak to an officer. I think it's too important to have that contact. So, but yeah, so hopefully we can work on those things. So, all right. The other thing I wanted to do is I just wanted to touch base. And I'll my time with this, so I apologize if I'm going over. But I just wanted to put something together and just talk briefly about traffic. You know, I was.
Thank you.
One of the things that I wanted to just kind of outline for you, and it was a conversation that myself and the town manager had regarding traffic issues. And traffic, you know, is a major issue in the town of Abington, obviously. So I wanted to put together a little bit of information for you to just understand that where we stand with some of our traffic enforcement. And know that it's a priority on our department, because I know that you guys have constituents out there that are talking to you about traffic issues. I know that the town manager gets calls or emails about traffic issues, and we get emails about traffic issues as well. So know that that's something that we at the police department try to address seriously. I have to say that the officers have done a tremendous job out there with dealing with COVID. I mean, they're in the beginning of this process, and even now, some of the officers, they don't even, they're thinking about the safety of others before they think about themselves in these situations. But traffic enforcement was one of the things that the guys are still out there doing, and they're doing it at a good clip to try to alleviate some of the problems. So just I wanted to talk about the four in quickly, but Birch Street Birch Street with the commercial motor vehicle exclusion, that was brought up to me about 2 weeks ago with a complaint from one of the residents there. And so I went out and spoke to the resident and tried to come up with some ideas about how we can try to help that. I don't know if you noticed it, it's in the little packet that I gave you, but we put our information sign up there, thinking that maybe it was an education, maybe part of it was an education thing. If a truck drives down the street and doesn't notice the sign, that's one more truck that goes down that the resident has to deal with. So we thought that maybe over time we could educate them better with the sign. The other thing that we're doing on Birch Street, we've had a substantial amount of enforcement up in Birch Street. I think over 90 traffic assignments on Birch Street alone over the last 90 days or somewhere in that 90 days, or 77, 72 assignments. So we are constantly trying to deal with Birch Street. The other thing that I think, because it appears that the message wasn't getting out there a couple weeks ago, is that I do have a contact with the Mass State Police Commercial Motor Vehicle Enforcement Team, and we're going to see if we can maybe get them out there to maybe help in alleviate some of the truck traffic that's going down Birch Street. So that's the plan with that. Temple and Wyman was a recent one that I got a complaint on. I know that's a small road, but I'm assuming there's a bunch of, the cars are racing down there and they're turning from Temple onto Wyman. We did put our speed sign up there. What I didn't do was enact the survey with the speed sign, and in hindsight, I should have done that to get a better feel of what the actual problem is there. But regardless, we put the sign up there, and we've also backed it up with some enforcement. Linwood Street, low numbers. Linwood Street received a complaint from one of the residents there. I had done a traffic study up there myself probably last fall, sometime around then. And it was obvious that the cars were racing around up there on Linwood Street. So when this particular resident called, I went up there. But one of the things that she pointed out to me was that there were no speed limit signs in that section from Mill Street over to Groveland Street. There were no speed limit signs in that section. And this is my shameless plug for the DPW and John Stone. When I called John and said, John, do you think we can get some speed limit signs up there? John took care of it right away. And you'll see, it's not really related to anything recent, but also with the crossings up in North Abington and on Birch Street. There was a period last year or so that I was trying to deal with the railroad companies to try to come up with some safety enhancements at those crossings, because we had cars that kept turning down onto the tracks. And, ultimately what ended up happening was I had several meetings with representatives from the federal side of the railroad to the local side, to the MBTA. And really, I was delegated to, you're authorized to paint some lines across the crossing. So it wasn't what I was expecting, it wasn't what I was hoping, but it was all I could get, and I just wanted to include that because, again, John Stone was right on top of that and assisted me with that. He also assisted with replacing some streetlights up there around that crossing to try to make it a little more visible for the cars that might be coming down there at night. So I did include that stuff. But anyways, Linwood Street, he immediately put up two 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs, and you will see them posted. You'll see a picture of that as well. And the fourth one that we've been working on, and Sergeant Doherty was kind of taking the lead on this, is High Street between Route 123 and Groveland. And Sergeant Doherty requested that we do a speed study up there. We're hoping that by doing some of these speed studies that we can say, hey, what's our best enforcement times? And you'll see on the last few pages of this packet, you'll see what a sample speed study gives me. The other thing is on Birch Street on the truck exclusions, I thought that drafting a letter and sending it to some of the local businesses would help. So I drafted the letter, and I had the offices hand deliver the letter to someone in charge at some of the businesses in town that operate larger trucks. that may inadvertently take Birch Street and not realize it. So that was one of the other things we did to try to alleviate Birch Street's problem. But back to the speed study on High Street, you'll see the last couple pages. I only left our counter out there for a little over 5.5 days. I was a little concerned about my battery life. My battery's a little old in there, so I pulled it down after 5 days. But what I like to do is leave it out there for a week straight and try to get an accurate count on the vehicles that are passing by the location and what the speed limits are. And then you'll see that the software actually breaks it down on the last page of that packet. It will break down the best speed enforcement times. So we're trying to tailor our speed enforcement to specific problem times, if we can do that. So that's all. I know it's a problem for all of us, but no, on the police department's end. The other thing I wanted to show you, I didn't go through the packet, but on the second page, just wanted to show you, since the September 1st, that's a listing of traffic assignments that we have done on those 2 pages, page 2 and 3. It says dispatch call entries at the top, but know that those are traffic assignments. These guys are out there doing these traffic assignments, and I got to applaud them for that. I mean, even during this COVID, they're out there. We can't just let people do as they want to do on the roadways because we see the negative results of that. So, but these guys are out there doing this stuff, and they're still making stops, and they're still out there. They're visible as much as they can be. So. You'll see that those 2 pages, that's just an example of September that I wanted to show you of our traffic assignments. The other page you'll see, it's a colored page so you can see the difference between red and blue. But I just wanted to show you, tell you what this was. But this is a breakdown of all our calls for service. But you'll see that traffic assignment is the third on the list, and that's because it's the third largest number of calls that we log into our system. If I printed out the rest of the list for you, it would slowly go down in a bar graph down to nothing that you couldn't see based on our calls. But you can see that even this was a 90-day period, but in 90 days our officers were out there for 219 traffic assignments this year. You will notice that the red year. Red is 2019. You'll notice that there's a little more activity in the 2019 year, but that's only because of COVID. I mean, when COVID first came in, we dramatically reversed our exposure to the public in hopes of not catching anything and not having our offices get infected. And it was a little bit of an unknown for us. And we're beginning to, we're using best practices. The fire department has been tremendous to help educate us as far as what we can do and what we can't do. And in the beginning stages of COVID, I mean, we were all caught with our pants down a little bit, trying to figure out how we are going to deal with this. So that you'll notice that the traffic assignments have cut back, but that's only because of COVID. I'm guessing that if COVID didn't come into play, that we would be beaten with no problem the 2019 number. So those were the only things that I wanted to show you. Anybody have any questions regarding anything regarding traffic? Because I know it's something that we all deal with. And the other thing is, I know through the town manager's office, if there's any particular location that you guys, I'm sure you're getting the calls and the complaints as well, and if you work with the town manager and the town manager works with me, that we can try to do something as much as we can. I mean, I've taken the approach, it wasn't always the case, but I've taken the approach of some randomized enforcement so that we try to keep everyone on their toes, the motor and public. I don't think it does us any good to sit in a particular location for a week every day at 4 o'clock, because after about the second day, everyone knows, okay, I got to slow down, and then give it 2 days, we're gone, and they're right back up to it. So know that our traffic enforcement, and you can see it. You can see it by those second and third page that there's some randomness to our traffic assignments, and we try to maintain that to try to maximize our enforcement efforts and slow the cars down. So, anything.
Deputy, thank you for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next up on the agenda, Patrick Kearney, Adam Street, has a zoning complaint. Patrick, are you here? Yes. Welcome. If you want to just take us through the background, first give your name and address for the...
Sure. Patrick Kearney, 652 Adams Street. I filed a complaint on July 3rd, tried to get it. I want to thank you guys for seeing me. I've been quite persistent, and I want to apologize for using personal emails, but at the time, there were none on the town website.
That's all we had,
for
so,
town
yeah.
I have a copy of my complaint if anybody hasn't got it yet, if anybody wants to see it, if anybody wants to review it. I couldn't print out 5 copies because I ran out of ink.
That's okay, we can pass it down, thank you.
Yeah.
So in September of 2019, Mr. Robert Sullivan bought the house next door to me. And he and I happen to be an anomaly that we're residential properties, but still zoned as industrial. Mr. Sullivan assumed that because he was zoned industrial, he could do whatever he wanted with the property. So in September, he started removing the trees. In November, he started excavating. And it sat through the winter. And in February, he came to me and offered, there was a big hill in the back of the property. And Mr. Sullivan, when he first started excavating, one of the first questions I asked him was, because I kind of stuck my toe into the town bylaws to see what he could do and what he couldn't do, and I asked him if he had a permit to excavate the property. He gave me the line, if I need a permit for anything, I'll get a permit. So in November, they started excavating, and in February, he came to me and realized that because my hill was still there, and he had cut it at a shear on the property line, that he would have to install a retaining wall, and he would probably lose a little bit of his property. He said, it's going to cost me less to excavate your property than it would be to put up a retaining wall. I gave him verbal permission to excavate my property under the conditions that it would be graded properly and everything would be, done right so that I don't have to worry about water runoff or anything like that. So he started to excavate it, and that was the 20th of March. He had a tree removed from my property, and I'm just saying this to establish the pattern here. I said, I'd like the tree for firewood. Absolutely. I've got, and anything that I say, I can back up with text, pictures, emails, I can email it to you. Yeah, I'll get you the tree. You can have the tree for firewood. I never got the tree. So that was the first falsehood that he threw at me. So in March 26th, they started excavating my side. Like I said, they didn't finish. As of April 16th, he started filling his side with like road tailings, a compressible porous material that his plan is he owns snow plows, and he was going to clear his lot, park his plows there, work on them, do whatever he needed to do. So on the 16th of April, he filled his side 18 inches above my side, and I started having concerns about the grading, at which time he's, just kept making promises. Don't worry, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. So somewhere between, excuse me, when he did fill his side, he also dug big trenches along my property line, 4 foot by 4 foot by almost 4 foot deep, because he didn't know what to do with he hadn't even excavated that part and didn't know what to do with the water at that point. So his plan was he was going to fill it with stone. And Jeff Curry from Whitman, who was working with CMC Paving, said, if you fill that with stone, you're just going to push the water right into my basement, because it's 25 feet from my house, not even. So he dug the trenches, left the soil from the trenches on my side, proceeded to fill, and he filled his lot in a way that it suited him. So in between April 16th and May 5th, he told me that he was going to remove my fence because he considered my fence on his property, and he was going to put his fence up, and that started the dispute, and that's when Mr. Lambiase was luckily appointed as the fence viewer.
Thank you, guys.
We gave it to the new guy.
Yeah, I figured that.
Pretty sure it's not valid.
So anyways, obviously the relationship broke down because there were just too many falsehoods. He wasn't doing what he was saying he was going to do. And I decided at that point, the only way I'm going to get this guy to do what he needs to do is to report him to the town. And that's when on May 5th, I filed a complaint with the zoning board. So on May 22nd, he had a landscaper install a fence between his property and mine. Asked him if he had a permit, didn't have a permit. Went to the town hall, lied on the permit application that he did it himself. Once again, photos and videos of McDonough Landscaping installing his fence. So he falsified the liability and the workers' comp and all that stuff. So the 1st of June, he was visited by, I believe, the zoning enforcement officer, maybe the building inspector. And at that time, they kind of told him, you need a permit, so he pulled the permit for the fence, and they told him, let's cease. I don't know if he got a cease and desist at that point, but I think he was told to kind of just, let's hold off, you need to file with the planning board, you need to file permits and all that stuff. On June 6th is when he decided to put more fill in. And he placed like 2 by 4 concrete blocks right on my property line, and he built his grade up about 2 feet above my property line, with all the gravel underneath that basically creates the aquifer that Jeff Curry told him not to do. So on the 3rd of July, I filed a complaint with the Board of Selectmen. I emailed it to the secretary, I emailed it to Mr. Lambiase, zoning board, planning board. I didn't have any emails for you guys individually, so I couldn't get it to you then. So basically, it's taken till now, and like I say, I really appreciate you guys listening to me, because I've been living this every day since the winter, you know. So as a result of this, obviously, I buried my nose into the zoning bylaws. And the way I interpret it is he's in violation of 175-47, 175-72, excuse me. 175-47 is driveways and entrances. His driveway was in 3 feet of my house. He's got 2 driveways within 75 feet of each other, which doesn't meet code. 175-72 is change of use, for which he needs a special permit issued by the Board of Selectmen to go from a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use, because he didn't conform as a residence to an industrial, I would assume, and he does not conform to an industrial because he does not have the dimensions in the property or the setbacks.
What's the property zoned? What's the zoning there?
It's zoned industrial. It was, for 80 years, it was a residence. So it's obvious he's changed the use of the property. He's also in violation of 175-77, and 175-78, which is certificate of occupancy for change of use, 175-50, which is 10-foot buffer strips on driveways, 175-67, which is site features, they're hazardous, odorous, noxious fumes, and by putting his fence 6 inches from my fence, he's basically created a tunnel for vermin. He's got no trash disposal plan, no dumpster on site. I don't know what he does with his trash. And all the while, he's basically run his business in this lot. He moved in, he cut the trees down, he cleared the lot, he put his trucks in without any concern for neighbors, any concern for the town, any concern for anything. And according to the way I read the bylaws, and I may be wrong, but I don't believe he's allowed to occupy the space until he has permits and certificate of occupancy. And Mr. Smith, I hate to put you on the spot, but he did state on the record last night at the planning board meeting that he doesn't have a approval by the planning board, he doesn't have a building permit, and he doesn't have a certificate of occupancy. And according to the town bylaws, he shouldn't be able to even occupy the premises until he has those. Yet every single day, he's there running his business.
Does he live there?
No,
Is it rented out?
no.
So the house is vacant?
The house is vacant.
All right, was a cease and desist issued?
There was a cease and desist against any more fill being brought in,
Just the fill?
just the fill.
By who?
By the
Marshall?
planning board.
By the planning board?
Yes, sir.
There has also been, there's been cease and desist order. The building commissioner and the zoning officer have been in contact with Mr. Sullivan frequently. I have a stack of fines that they've issued to him, cease and desist orders, that really how they finally got him in to come to the planning board and file was, by their letters. And it was very difficult for them to initially get in touch with Mr. Sullivan. He had a P.O. box out in, I believe, in Milton. And, when we first got the complaint, they first started dealing with it, they couldn't even get a constable or someone to serve them. You couldn't serve them at a P.O. box anyway, so it took a bit of time for them to track him down. Ultimately, that was their intention, was to get him to get in front of the planning board. I don't disagree with, Mr. Sullivan, that if in fact he's using the property, he hasn't got the permits yet, he probably shouldn't be using the property. I believe there is a cease and desist order from the building commissioner. I think at the end of the day, what I would like to do, with this board's permission, is to work with the planning board and the zoning officer and probably put this in the hands of town council to send a letter off to Mr. Sullivan to state what the actual infractions are, and if a cease and desist order should be issued, which is quite possible, then that should be sent by town council, and let them know that if they don't follow through with the cease and desist order, we will go to court.
Yeah, according to 17581, it's a fine up to $300 per offense per day, which there are several offenses, and it's almost every day. So feeling the way I do, as I'm stating to you tonight, have been documenting every day that he occupies the property. Since then, he's become combative. He's harassed my dogs with his weed whacker. He's yelled at me. He's threatened to film my grandchildren, and he did film my grandchildren, 2- and 4-year-old little girls. Stood there over the fence because I was documenting him, and I've got the video. I said, I'm just documenting your illegal occupation of the property, and he's screaming, I'll tape your children, and he started taping my 2- and 4-year-old granddaughters over the fence, which I don't know if it's illegal, but it certainly should be, because it's just not right. He's not a nice person. He hasn't been a nice person, and obviously I've tried working with the guy, and I can't reason with him. We can't get anywhere. And yet he flaunts himself being over there every single day.
So, was he on the agenda on the planning board last night for what? A site plan, or?
We actually, he was at the meeting previous to that, previous month.
I'm sorry, can
Why
you
don't
step
you-
up to the mic so
yeah.
they can hear you, and
In TV
the
land?
one person that's watching can hear you?
I'll give you the dates.
I think Lisa's watching, we got 2.
That's the one.
watching.
Yeah.
So, let me just make sure. He was, we had him before us on the 5th of October. And he said that he would have the site plan for us for November 2nd. We said, no, actually, must have been the month before that. So anyway, we said, well, we wanted to see him on November the 2nd and explain what's been done to this point. He's hired a lawyer, which he had the previous meeting, and he's also got an engineer. We had originally, I'm really getting off the subject. I'm not quite sure. If I go too far with this thing, just shut me down. But this all started back in the spring when we got a call to the planning board that there was fill being put in to that property. So I went out and looked at it, and there obviously was fill. We came back, we sent a letter stating that we wanted them to come before the planning board. He never responded to it. We had another complaint. I went back out again, looked at it again, knew there was more. For some reason, this letter got his attention, this cease and desist and everything else. Got his attention. He called this office, the planning board office, I believe on either Saturday or Sunday, because it was over the weekend. So I got in contact with him on Monday. He said, how do you know what I've done, and so forth and so on. And I said, well, I can tell by observation that obviously there was more than 250 yards of fill that were put into that project. And he denied it, told me to know what I was talking about particularly. But in any case, so we finally got him before the planning board with his attorneys and trying to establish this. At the last meeting we had last night, he has an engineer that's in there that's determining how much fill was there originally and what's been changed. He came up with a figure of 1,400 yards that were removed or moved, 350 to some other part on the property. But obviously, he hasn't followed the bylaws on fill, and that's how we originally got involved. Originally got involved, we also said that you need a site plan for this, and we've been after him for that also. And I know the zoning enforcement officer has done that also. At this point, he's not going to have the information to us because he hasn't had enough time to get the engineers and everything to come up with a site plan. They're going to have a site plan for us, believe it or not until December. So that's when he's coming in with a site plan. And obviously, there's a lot of things that Patrick mentioned that, he's got to comply with or something. Now, it's an existing lot to begin with. The house there was rented when he first went in there, and I think the person left probably in February or something.
They left in May. Yeah, they left in May. I don't know when they started renting, but they left in May.
It was rent, and what they really is changed the use of the property, although it is zoned for what they want to do there. But the size of the lot is also a problem, and many times when you have a lot of a certain size, it's what it is. The same thing with the marijuana place that wants to go in Abington. It's an existing piece, and that causes problems. But we've been working with the town council with it, and he's very difficult to deal with. However, his attorney is Ron Whitney from Whitman, who is trying to make this thing work. And I think he's listening to him because he realizes how much money this is going to cost him if he doesn't get with it.
I got a quick one. You said 1,400 cubic yards was taken out?
Yes.
Do you know if it was put somewhere else in town?
It was moved. I don't know where exactly it went. And they also used 3 different, I might have my I thought I did, but I might not have them here, but you're running a meeting and taking a few notes.
I know they mentioned Jeff Price is one of the haulers.
But it was,
Some of the other two.
yeah, it was 1,400, and supposedly he moved 350 yards to another place on the property. And I don't see it here. If I find it, I'll give it back.
Well, I guess my concern is if he moved it to another spot, that much filled to another spot in Abington, wouldn't wherever he brought it to have to go in front of the planning board?
I don't know. He had, Edwards was one that was bringing some stuff in. There were 3 different contractors that were bringing fill in there.
I'm talking about the fill, you said it was
And I have no
1,400
idea.
removed.
He has his own
Okay.
trucks, so I'm not quite sure. He claims that all the trucks that are there now are there because he plows snow for the Commonwealth. And
Do you know what he's storing on the property
Move all
now?
the trucks out for the winter.
Trucks, snow plows. I drove through there on
That's one of
Saturday.
my concerns is when he does have to plow his lot, where is he gonna put the snow? According to 17566, he owes me a 20-foot buffer strip between his industrial property and my residential property. And right now, it's a very dangerous situation because he moves his trucks around. His trucks are all old, antiquated, cable lift plows, which you really don't see anymore. And my granddaughters play right on the other side of that fence, and I'm petrified of one of those trucks just having a brake failure, a foot slipping off a clutch, because those big diesels, you don't even have to be hitting the gas. Your foot slips off that clutch, it's going right through that fence. You know, that's part of the reason for the 20-foot buffer zone, and that's, I would imagine, the intention behind that, so that he doesn't operate until that buffer zone is in, to create a safety barrier between him and me, as one of my main concerns. Thank you.
He's using Hardy Engineering to determine what was taken out and put in. Hardy said he took the pictures, satellite pictures before, and tried to figure it out. He claimed there was 1,400 cubic yards that were taken out of there. 300 process was brought in. It was brought in by JMPS, Price, Pompeo, and Edwards. 380 yards went back into the area. And this, all you got to do is listen to, what the engineer, and he's paying for the engineer that's coming up with these figures. And the people he has working for him at this point are people that I think give us the right answers, but.
So, Scott, what was your recommendation again?
Let me, as he said, town council has already started working with us on this, but let me work with town council. But I think ultimately, if there's activity that's going on there and there's been a cease and desist and there's no permits, then a letter should come from town council letting them know that we intend to enforce the cease and desist order. And that if they don't want to abide by it, then we will file in court to have an injunction.
And that'll come on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
Exactly.
On top of the one from the building department.
Yeah.
So our motion would be to direct Scott to work with town council on writing up a cease and desist on our behalf.
So, yeah, I agree with that. I would like to see that done sooner rather than later, because I think if we hit them in the pocketbook, and if all those trucks are there ready to plow, and if we get a cease and desist that he can't use the property, we might get some action from him.
Yeah, and absolutely, and as I said, the building commissioner and the zoning officer, they have been very active. There are fines that have been levied against them. I don't believe they were per diem, but they may have done some of them per diem. So, again, I want to make sure, I'll work with them, with town council, and I think we can, analyze what's going on there, exactly what the bylaw does say, and deal with it in short order.
Need that motion made?
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess you could vote for it, and I think my direction is clear.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need a motion to direct him to do that, do we?
And Mr. Kearney, is that what you're?
I would love to see a motion on television.
Well, then I would make a motion to authorize Scott to discuss with town council and the zoning enforcement officer a possible resolution and cease and desist, if need be, at whatever the...
662 Adams.
662 Adams Street.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Sir, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up is to review the warrant articles and vote recommendations for special town meeting. We have another copy of the warrant here. Scott, do you have the, I'm blanking now, the Finance Committee's recommendations? Oh, she has them.
Sue has them.
Sue has them with her.
Copies for them?
All right.
I'm
In the
guessing that's what
meantime,
Sean's here for?
what's that?
So I'm guessing that's what you've been patiently waiting for?
Did that jump?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure, hijack the meeting, why not?
Oh, this is related to it. Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street, 271 Dorsey Street, Town Moderator. You're about to go over the warrant. I just want to remind the voters at home, invite them to the town meeting. It's a special town meeting on Monday, October 19th. It'll be held at the auditorium at the Abington Middle High School. We'll be utilizing the exact same protocol that we did for the annual town meeting. So masks are required, 6-foot distances. We'll have socially distanced seating. We'll have ushers there to help you out. The town clerk staff will be there to help you check in. We'll be putting a few things on cable to remind people of the protocols and the procedures. The quorum is 50, It starts at 7 o'clock, so we would ask people who would plan to attend to please arrive before 7 so you can check in and find a seat, and we'll get going as soon as possible. We'll try to make sure everyone feels safe and comfortable, get through the business at hand as quickly as possible, but always providing enough time for discussion and debate. So again, Monday night, October 19th, and I'd like to thank Mr. Lambiase and Ms. Moquin and the Finance Committee and this board for all you're doing in preparation. Also, our town clerk and our Board of Health, thanks to everyone who is working together. Thank you.
Sharon, one quick question. The 50 quorum, does that stay in effect until we vote it back to, or is there a time limit on the law that was passed?
It'll stay in effect as long as the state of emergency is in effect.
I got you.
Okay.
But this board could also take a vote to change it at some time also.
Okay.
but
Now, do we have
once
the same limit of, if we go over 150 people at special town meeting, does it get canceled?
No, what will happen is we'll set it up
Oh,
just like we did
postpone.
last time. So we can fit approximately 100 people in the auditorium socially distanced. So if we have more than 100 people, they would be moving into the gymnasium. We'll have a video and an audio connection. If for some reason we fill the gymnasium, which is unlikely, by law, we cannot run a town meeting if there are voters who want to attend and take part but are not able to fit. We'd have to postpone the town meeting to another day. But we do need 50 to start. We hope everyone will get there promptly on time. I know there's a lot of board members. You guys will be there, so hopefully we'll get to 50 rather quickly. And Deputy Moderator Bob Kelly is also reviewing the warrant to help us out. He'll be there. And I think we'll be ready to go on Monday, October 19th.
So, one more time, the quorum stays as long as the state of emergency?
The quorum is allowed to be reduced as long as the state of emergency is in effect, which it is. If the governor terminated the state of emergency next week, the quorum will go back up to 150, which is our bylaw. As it is right now, the last vote this Board of Selectmen took was to maintain it at 50 for the purposes that you already discussed, to kind of get started and get going. There's no maximum. That doesn't mean we can only have 50 people. We can have as
Right.
many people who would like to come. But having a lower quorum allows us to get started on time, which hopefully gives people the confidence to show up on time. All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, so we'll go through the articles now. What do you guys think the best way to do this? I could read them off, and then we could vote. If there's any questions, we could stop. Do you want to?
I think, just go Article 1, FinCom approves, votes to approve this article, and then if we have questions, we'll stop at that
So
one.
basically, all right, so it'll be a motion, I'll read, there'll be a quick motion, a quick second, and we'll move on unless there's questions. Okay?
Or we could go through all of them and then just do one motion at the end, or...
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying, just keep track.
Yeah,
of what-
because we might, you're gonna skip through them pretty quickly, so
Yep, no,
we don't need to
that's-
stop each one.
that's a
so-
better idea.
Yeah.
So Article 1 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds, borrow, or otherwise provide the sum of $890,000 to design and reconstruct or otherwise rehabilitate the Central Street Bridge and anything incidental or related thereto, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute all documents and take such actions as may be necessary to effectuate the purpose of this vote or take any other action relative thereto. So you see, we have the
So,
finance committees.
Finance Committee votes to approve Article 1.
Any questions or comments on?
Yeah, so I have a question. This was on there for 430,000, and now it's at 890, 460,000 increase. Where did that come from?
Yeah, the bridge is deteriorating, so I think I'm not sure how many years ago they based that number on. Since then, we've had environmental partners has gone out there to look at the engineering on it, and it is deteriorating faster than they thought. If you did the $400,000 project, you would just be putting a Band-Aid on it, they would come back to town meeting within 10 years to spend another $400,000 or $500,000. This is what is suggested by our engineering firm is a fix that will last, 40, 50 years. And it's absolutely necessary. Mass Highway was out there recently. You're at risk of that being downgraded to a bridge that fire apparatus won't be able to go over, trucks won't be able to go over. And if it continue to degrade, cars won't be able to go over it. So I recommend it.
Is there any state money that we're getting on
Yeah,
this?
obviously, John's and everybody is actually really good at looking into grants and different state money, and if there's anything there, we'll find it. Unfortunately, some of the grants that were out there were for bridges that were less than 20 feet in length, and apparently this is
bridge,
like
yeah.
21 point something feet in length, so he wasn't eligible for it.
Okay.
But as the planning board can tell you, we've recently been designated an MVP community, with a lot of hard work from the planning board and John Stone and some other committees. That opens up the possibility for other grants, so we will absolutely always look for those. But right now, there's nothing there, but we will continue to,
Okay.
search.
Does anybody not want to recommend that? Okay, we'll move on to number 2, to see if the town will vote to accept as a town the way of roadway known as Cook Way, hereto laid out by the Board of Selectmen, as such roadway is shown on the roadway acceptance plan dated 2/13/20 and prepared by Silva Engineering, PC, on file with town clerk, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain or otherwise easements in said roadway together with all related drainage, utility, and other easements, or take any other action hereto.
So that Article 2 and 3 are combined. So that will read the 2 streets.
Same thing with Belcher Street.
Right. And Finance Committee defers that to the recommendation of the planning board, and we've already,
The planning board recommendation we already got, which they recommended. Does anybody on this board not want to recommend that? 2 and 3? No objection. Number 4, same thing for Crabtree Lane. We already had the planning board's
Right.
recommendation. The finance committee defers to the planning board. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes. Anybody not going to recommend that? 5, to see if the town will vote to amend the Abington zoning bylaws, general regulations by adding the following new section. E, all freestanding signs identifying the property are required to have the physical street address on them to aid public safety agents in time of emergency. Said street address may be part of, separate from the sign, and shall not be included in the calculation of the sign's area, and the sign cannot obstruct sight lines. Submitted by the planning board.
so does that just mean the street number on the sign? Yeah, they don't have to put, 500 Glenowitz Way, just 500. Yeah, okay.
Now that street number's not added to the calculation of the sign's area, so if they put it on top,
It could be anywhere on it, but in other words, it doesn't make them make a new sign up, so they can just add. It doesn't, signs have an area that can only be covered, you don't have so big a sign in any particular establishment.
and are these just new signs, or all, they have to add on to what they already have?
They can add it on.
Are they required to add on, or they are, okay,
They're required to have a
all right,
number on the business.
okay. I don't think that's a bad idea.
Okay, the next one's up to 15 by the finance committee, are all deferred to the planning board.
Right.
Any objections from this board?
No.
Hearing none. Number 6, to see if the town will vote to amend the Abington zoning bylaws, section 175-4, definitions and word usage by adding the following new definition: swimming pool, any structure intended for swimming or recreational bathing that contains water over 24 inches deep. Please see definition of swimming pools in international or Massachusetts state building codes, or take any other action thereto. What's the story behind this one?
We're going to pass over it. Originally, it came from
I'm sorry, can I just have you stand to the mic, or you can even bring the mic to you? That's wireless, so.
Originally, it came from the zoning enforcement officer, and also it was reviewed by Dan Crane, who did the review of the zoning bylaws. Since then, the zoning enforcement officer wants us to withdraw it, so
All right.
we're passing over it. We're voting to pass over.
So this board will recommend the Passover as well, I assume? Any objection to that? No? Article 7, to see if the town will vote to amend the Abington zoning bylaw, section 175-4, definitions and word use by adding the following new definition: accessory apartment, or take any other action thereto. What's an accessory apartment?
This actually just puts it in definitions. It's already been in the bylaw, but it just puts it in a, basically, index.
Okay. Thank you. Any objections from this board? Article 8, to see if the town will vote to amend the Abington zoning bylaws, section 125-32I9B, multi-unit dwellings, apartments, or condominium complexes of 12 residential units or more by adding the word shown in bold as follows: change from B, at the beginning of each calendar year, the owners shall file a notarized statement with the building inspector listing the names and family relationship of all occupants residing on the premises, and that's changed to an annual in-law affidavit.
I thought they had to do that now for an in-law?
This was originally came from the zoning enforcement officer, but since he doesn't, I believe last night we voted for it. I don't know if you remember, Sean. And Sean has a question whether it's necessary to have it in there, but.
I thought they had to do that now.
They do, and this doesn't change it. It was just, apparently the building department just wanted to add the name of the document into the bylaw.
Oh, I see,
So they
okay.
just inserted that parenthetical phrase, it's called an in-law affidavit, because apparently that's what it's
Okay.
called on the website.
Thank you. Any objections from anybody on this board? Article 9, to see if the town will vote to amend the Abington zoning bylaws 135-13, lots transcend by district boundary line by changing maximum distance beyond a zoning district boundary line from 50 to 100 feet when, as follows: when a lot is transcended by a zoning district boundary line, the regulations of the bylaw applicable to the larger part, 50% or greater, of such lot may also, at the option of the lower lot, be deemed to govern in the smaller part up to a maximum distance of 100 feet beyond such zoning district boundary line, provided that the buffer area required in 175-66 of this bylaw are met, or take any other action relative thereto. Careful, Sean, I may go for moderator if I keep reading these.
So, so I thought it was 300 feet. You could, what is the current and what's being changed?
Previously, the bylaw used to say that if you had, in this example, a commercial lot, you're on Route 18 or Route 123, and your lot was, say, 400 feet deep, but the highway commercial zone might be only 200 feet off the road. So the question was, can I build my commercial building only in that front 200, or can I go into my backyard, so to speak? The old bylaw said that you could take the highway commercial zone, if the majority of the lot was highway commercial, then you could treat the entire lot as highway commercial.
Okay.
I think that's what like Walmart did.
Right.
Okay?
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
All right, then they wanted to restrict that, to say, well, if you own a big lot, we don't want you to be able to just take it willy-nilly and use the whole thing. So they shrunk it down and said, you can only move this district line, if it's at 200 feet, you can only move it 50 feet. And that becomes a problem in limited circumstances, or in some circumstances where you still have more land. So if you wanted to now build a larger commercial project, you now have to get a use variance from the zoning board, which can be difficult to do. So the thought was here, this was to make it 100 feet instead of 50 feet, not make it the entire lot for the larger lots. If you need to go more than 100 feet, you do need to go to the zoning board.
So if you have a 400-foot lot, 200 feet is commercial, say, now you will automatically have 300 feet if you wanted it, but the fourth the next 100 you would need zoning,
Correct.
just to be clear.
And
Yes,
you'd always be going to the planning board also if it's commercial development.
right. Okay.
I'm gonna step down for these zoning hearings as moderator because I appear before the zoning board on occasion, I have clients and such, but I'm happy to try to answer it because I have the working knowledge.
Okay.
Anybody object to 9? No. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to delete the note in the Abington zoning bylaws, 17521, table of use regulations, which states, Note 1, solid waste facilities are prohibited in the technology business district. Anybody have an issue with solid waste?
So this goes back to when,
Housekeeping.
Yeah.
There is no technology business there, correct?
right,
We forgot to delete this note. So the bylaw's gone, just the note stands.
Right.
we don't have,
We changed technology business to business development.
right,
And in the business development use chart, it already prohibits, solid waste facilities. So the note is useless, it was just lingering, so we're just trying to clean it up.
All right. Okay, Article 11, to see if the town will vote to add the following language to the Abington zoning bylaws, 175-77, site plan review by adding the following 2 sections. Thank you. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to amend the Abington zoning bylaws 175-32 by deleting the language shown in the strike-through and replacing it with the language shown in bold. So they are removing 50 feet apart in the event of variance for more than one building on a lot is granted by the zoning board of appeals, and adding 50 feet from any other residential building granted for the site.
This just allows a couple of sections of the zoning board to better conform to each other. Meaning, there's a section in the zoning bylaw that says you can only have one principal building on a lot unless you're building an apartment or condominium complex pursuant to 175-32. So in 175-32 allows more than one building on a lot because it's condominiums and apartments. Not every one, sometimes it's single buildings, but some of them are multiple buildings. So the old version said, but to have multiple buildings, you needed a variance. But the other section said you don't need it if it's an apartment or condominium. So there was a conflict. So they're trying to clean that up to say, all right, if it's 12 or more units, if it's a larger commercial or apartment project, then the buildings, we anticipate there'll be more than one building, but they must be 50 feet apart for the residential buildings. A non-residential building like a garage, like a detached garage on Summer Street in that apartment complex there, I can't remember the name again. The garage doesn't have to be 50 feet away from the residential building, but each residential building would have to be 50 feet away. So this is, again, trying to clean it up a little bit.
so if you had, is this a 12-unit building or more than 12 units on the lot?
12 or more units on the lot.
Okay, so you could have multiple 3-unit buildings less than 50
If
feet
you
apart.
have 2 buildings or more and 12 units or more, then you have to comply with this.
2 buildings or more,
Well, because 2 buildings would be 50 feet apart. If you had 1 building, there's nothing to be apart from, I'm saying. This section only applies, let me back up, make it easy, if it's 12 units or more.
right, okay. So if you're less than 12 units, you had 2 or 3-unit buildings, it doesn't apply.
This section doesn't apply.
Right.
Oddly
Okay.
enough, you would have to get a variance for a smaller complex.
Right.
To have more than 1 building.
Any objections to 12? Okay, number 13, to see if the town will vote to amend the Abington bylaws 175-39, multiple use planned development district, section D, tract area and frontage by reducing the tract size from the present requirement of 10 acres to 3 acres and to read as follows. D, tract area and frontage, the tract shall be in single or consolidated ownership at the time of application shall be 3 acres in size with a minimum of 200 feet of frontage unless otherwise allowed by special permit by the planning board if the proposed developments are be subdivided under the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land. Each resultant lot shall comply with the requirements of this section. All internal driveways providing access to the parking areas and buildings shall comply. with the design and construction standards of the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land is amended, whether or not the driveway network constitutes a subdivision, or take any other action relative thereto. Any objection with 13? No. Any questions? 14 we can read on our own, that's a whole page long.
Yeah, and there's a update to that, so.
There's an update to that? Oh, pass over.
Oh, you
14.
passed over? Okay.
Okay.
Still being worked out with the details.
Okay.
15 is the stormwater bylaw we've been hearing about. This basically has to be passed, right?
Yeah, that's not a zoning bylaw, it's a change to our general bylaws, a slight difference, but I think the planning board did take a position on it to, yes, we recommend approval.
Recommended, yeah.
FinCom deferred to planning on that, too. Right, yeah.
Correct, so Mr. Smith will be making the motions on all of those zoning articles and this Article 15 on behalf of the planning board.
Okay.
No objections to that? Okay, move on. Finance Committee articles. 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds, borrow or otherwise provide the sum of $68,000 to fund the buyout package in the agreement that was made between the Board of Selectmen and the police chief, or take any other action. That was submitted by town manager. Does anybody have objections to that?
No. Anyone?
17, by the Board of Health, to see if the town will vote to raise, appropriate, transfer, borrow, otherwise provide some $15,000 to a fund, conversion of the position of Board of Health Assistant from part-time to a temporary full-time position to provide the board with additional assistance with regulation, oversight, and other administrative functions, or take any other action thereto.
Is that money that can come from the CARES Act?
We're certainly gonna
We're gonna try.
try, yeah. But we absolutely, I mean, I don't think anybody can argue the point that we need help down there.
No, I understand.
But yeah, anything that we can, especially this, I think we will, at least, but only through December, right? So
Okay.
unless they extend, but apparently they're not gonna extend anything until after the election, so
So you would get some money from CARES Act to cover this?
that's our hope.
Okay.
And this is just, not a permanent, just until the end of the emergency.
Yeah, well, as long as we need that, yeah.
All right, any objections from the board? Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds, borrow, or otherwise provide the sum of $70,000 to purchase and install 2 new boilers for each fire station, 1 fire station 2 at any cost thereto, or any other action thereto. Is this not a capital expense?
I mean, it is, but we need it. We absolutely, they're dire, we're getting into the winter season. I think these boilers they're not reliable. And so it's kind of something we have to deal with now.
Would it be cheaper if we just bought them hooded sweatshirts?
Absolutely.
Can only kick it so many times,
I
Tim.
hope my house doesn't catch fire tonight, because I don't think anybody's coming.
Nice down comforters.
Heavy bunker gear, you know, they can.
So are you behind this, Mike?
No.
All right, anybody object to $70,000 for the fire station for boilers?
How can we object?
I do not object. Article 19, to see.
You should probably show that, though, as a 4 with an abstain.
Okay, 4-1 with them staying on 18. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer available funds, borrow, otherwise provide the sum of $11,000 to purchase and equip a brush truck for the fire department, with remaining 95% to be provided by a grant from FEMA, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen and any other appropriate official of the town to apply and accept said grant for any forms of financial assistance that may be available to the town on account of this purchase, or take any other action thereto. There's a lot there. What do we vote?
I
I understand the part, like, they need the $11,000 to make up from the grant they got. But the other parts, what are we authorizing the selectmen to do?
we authorizing the selectmen to accept
the grant.
the grant.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank the guys who found the grant, put it together. Saved us a ton of money.
Any objections there? Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $30,000 to pay the remaining balance for paving the senior center parking lot project and anything incidental thereto. So the extra money we had from last year didn't cover the cost of paving.
Right. Sue will tell you that comes out of
It's
program.
coming out of the program income account, so it's not taxpayer dollars. For the contractor that got the lowest bid through a regional contract, didn't feel that doing the work for $100,000, he wanted to put his name on without doing the job properly. He said within a couple of years, you would have ended up having to pull up some of that parking lot again and redo it.
Okay.
So I didn't hear you. Where's the money coming from?
Program income account. So it's we had a community development block grant program 2 years, so it was like $800,000. So we assisted elderly in fixing their homes if they fell within a certain income, and we put a lien on their property for 20 years. If they sold the property before the 20 years, they owed us the balance of the
Right.
lien. So that
And
money
that's
can
where
be
that's
used
coming from.
again for program income or senior
I see.
purposes.
Okay, great.
Sue, can you explain 21? I could read it, but it looks like...
That's by the assessors and the treasurer. So basically, they're trying to change the income limits. So what our income limits are now are so low, it's like below the poverty income. So they're trying to increase the income limits so that more people will qualify for the abatements.
Any objections to Article 21?
No.
22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer available funds, borrow, or otherwise provide the sum of $12,000 to purchase and equip a greens machine, and the sum of $18,645 to purchase and install replacement protective netting for Strawberry Valley Golf Course, or take any other action thereto. I feel guilty about the netting on Strawberry Valley. I hit that net so many times, I think I'm responsible.
So I think
My
you should
slice
pay
on
for
hole
it.
too, yes. Absolutely, I'll write a check.
So just so everyone knows, we run the golf course now, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming out of their own fund.
Right.
Any objections to Article 22?
No.
Article 23, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer of available funds, the sum of $416,487 to supplement the FY21 school department budget and anything incidental or relative thereto.
So this is a transfer, but we're getting some COVID money?
No,
No.
this was, I'll let you answer.
So our cherry sheet numbers came in higher than our
Oh, okay.
expectations, so that's their portion of it.
I see.
Because they cut almost $1 million out of their budget when we were trying to
Right.
figure out what we're gonna do. We gave them a portion of that money back.
Okay, great.
Any objections to Article 23? 24, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer available funds, borrow, or otherwise provide the sum of $22,000 to fund a settlement agreement for an injured employee or take any other action thereto. Any objections to 24?
No. 25, we're not gonna make you read 25.
Ain't gonna happen. So 25, that's a bylaw change?
25 is going to establish the trust, the housing, the Affordable Housing Trust, and we're all looking forward to that.
Yes. Any objection to the Affordable Housing Trust? Article 26, to see if the town will vote to amend the town charter, section 511, relative to the appointment term for the police chief by striking the second sentence and replace it with the following. Change from, there shall be a police chief appointed by the town manager for an indefinite term. I'm going to change it to, there shall be a police chief appointed by the town manager for such term as the parties mutually agree upon. Or take any other action there too. Any objections to 26? 27, to see if the town will vote to change section 175, 24.3 of the town zoning bylaws, so it may read, number of license, the number of recreational marijuana retailers and recreational marijuana delivery-only retailers permissible to be located in the MOD shall be limited to 50% of the number of licenses within the town for the retail sale of alcohol beverages not to be drunk on premises where sold to Mass General Law 138, Section 15. In the event that 50% of said license issued shall be in a whole number, the limit shall be rounded up to the nearest whole number. Any objections to that bylaw? No. So, oh, sure.
The current motion says the finance committee is going to defer the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen. I think it's going to be a recommendation of the planning board because this is a zoning bylaw change. So the planning board has to have a public hearing, which is Friday, October
16th.
Friday, the Friday before the town meeting. They're going to have their public hearing, so they'll make the recommendation on that article.
So until we have their recommendation, maybe we don't make a recommendation on 27.
The reason it's then is it had to be advertised. We just couldn't have a hearing without advertising it 7 and 14 days before the hearing, so that was the only night we could hold it on, that's why it's held on that Friday, just before the town meeting on Monday.
I know, it was thrown on you at the last minute. Thank you.
And I'll be here.
I'm sorry, Jim?
And that meeting will be here.
In this room? That meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so we took no action on 27, pass over 11 and 6, and everything else was 5-0 except for 18 and 19 was 4-1, 4-0-1.
Correct.
Do we need a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of accepting the Board of Selectmen's recommendations for special town meeting?
Aye.
So moved. Next up is the discuss Selectmen Liaison for Capital Improvement Committee, and Scott, you want to go through that, what you're looking for there?
Yeah, just, real quick, we're going to establish, or reestablish, I don't know whether there was one in the past, but, a capital improvement committee, that we can put a long-term plan together. Sue's already sent messages out to the department heads to ask them for some 5-year plans, that we can look at, we can prioritize. So there'll be a, representative from the finance committee that'll be on it, and we'd like, obviously, a representative from the Board of Selectmen to be on that committee, preferably one who can meet during the day. So, don't have to tell us now, but just something for you guys to think about. We want to get it going, relatively soon, start putting the plan together.
Okay, so that'll be something that'll come up on on a future agenda.
Yeah, I think probably if you guys can come up with it, think about whether you want to do it or
I'm
not.
sorry, Scott. Wayne, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
If you see Sean out there, tell him I said thank you too. I missed him when he snuck out. Sorry about that.
Quite all right. Yeah, well, I'll put it on the agenda for probably that first meeting in November.
Okay. And town manager's report.
Selectman Bezanson had asked me to look into something as far as we're considering some way to help out some of the restaurants and taverns around in the town, and a way to help them out. They've had a tough year, obviously, making ends meet. And it's getting near time that you'll see that we're going to be putting licenses for you, in front of you for renewal. So what I was proposing is that we, or that Alex had proposed, is that we would look at maybe giving them a break on their liquor license renewals. And we could do it with the, the restaurants. I wouldn't suggest that we do it with liquor stores, but I certainly think.
Liquor stores, most of them probably did pretty well.
If, it depending, the total that we get in fees for the common vic, all alcohol, wine, malt, the clubs, the farmer's pouring license, it's just over $25,000 in that area. I'll defer to Sue on whether that's a hit that the town could handle if you wanted to waive the fee for this year, or if you wanted to give a reduced fee. I think anything we did would be appreciated by the businesses, and just be a good sign from the town and the selectmen that, we are here to support them and we do want to work with them. But like I said, Sue, I think you and I just briefly talked about it.
Yeah, I
So
think it's minimal to our revenue sources, so I don't think it would be detrimental.
Yeah, I think we need to do whatever we can to help the restaurants and bars. Everyone's seen the reports that could be up to 40% never reopen. And Abington can't afford to lose 40% of our restaurants and bars, because we just can't afford to do that, because in the future, we'll be getting more meals tax and other things. So I'd like to see that. But I think, do we need that on a future agenda?
Absolutely.
To vote on? Yeah.
What I would probably put it on, because we're ready to send the licenses out for renewal, so I would probably put it on your next agenda, yes.
Prior to town meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. And just to help out, I'm going to donate my full salary back to the town. 100%.
Okay, Donald.
It'll be well appreciated. All, none of it. Veterans interview, so the VSO officer, we're well into the initial vetting process. Sue and I have met with 4 or 5 candidates. They've all been really good. It's actually, I'd say we're very impressed with, and very lucky and happy with what we've seen so far. So along with the suggestions I got from Kevin and Mike, I did reach out to Ken Colburn, and I asked him if we can vet it, get it down to 2 or maybe 3 candidates. It might even be hard to get it to 2. To have a small committee that'll work with Sue and I, and probably one other, probably Marty, internally, that we'll get together and sort of pick make that selection from.
I think Marty would be a good one, to be honest.
Yeah, Marty's a veteran, and he's a solid guy. I think I'd like his input. Marty's offered to sort of shadow whoever is in here, and even with Tom, if he ever could find the time, which I don't think he can, but he would like to be able to, if there was a reason that the veterans agent is out for a period, to be able to help and say, look, we can direct you to whatever you need. So I think this is a great way that, it's great that, we're going with a full-time veteran service officer just for our town. I do appreciate regionalization for a lot of things. It just didn't seem to be working in this particular case. And I think our veterans deserve to have, a little more focus. So, and nothing against, I tell you, Tom McCarthy, who's been here, and he's over in Whitman, who's retiring, does a fabulous job, and I can't say enough great things about him, and I'm glad he'll stick around and help train somebody.
Good. When do you think you'll have that in place?
We hope to do it in short order. So I think by the end of the week, Sue and I will narrow it down and try and set something up next week, for that committee to meet and make a selection. So far, all the candidates we've met, we've been pretty lucky. They're all pretty available.
Good.
And Tom's, like I said, Tom's very agreeable to doing whatever it takes to help out. Matter of fact, Tom said he would also sit in with us on the committee.
Excellent, good.
We've also had interviews for a sealer of weights and measures, and that's going well. And finally, Leanne, town clerk, a couple things from Leanne. The town clerk received a grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life. The grant was for $6,300, and this is to assist in planning and operations for a safe election. She can use the money for administrative needs, training, cleaning, staffing, and costs associated with this voting by mail. So again, it's great. All the department heads here are really good. They all sort of reach out and try to find these grants where they're out there, and it's a big help to us. They do add up over the years. Even little ones like, and this is a good sized one. I think it'll be very helpful. And right now, I think Jim probably touched on this earlier, that they're currently processing absentee ballots. They have about 384 of them out, early voting. There's 3,312. The early voting begins in October. Absentee ballots will be available on the 15th. One last thing, I did get a message from Leanne that she asked me to pass off on her behalf. She wanted to clarify, I think, what was going on with the reason that we reopened the special town meeting warrant. So she says on Monday, September 28th, it was voted to reopen the special town meeting warrant for a petitioner to amend the Abington zoning bylaw to increase the number of recreational marijuana retailers, delivery retailers. It seems the warrant was open because Mr. Nashawati was misinformed. The petitioner inquired about a number of signatures needed for a petition for ATM, the annual town meeting back in March, with the Board of Selectmen office, and at this time, the request was for an annual town meeting, which requires 10 signatures. On September 14th, Mr. Nashawati came to our office with his petition. He asked about the requirements for his petition for the special town meeting. Barbara sent him to the Board of Selectmen office. She explained that the town clerk's job is only to certify the signatures, and suggested that he checks upstairs, meaning my office. The Board of Selectmen explained, or my office explained, Nancy explained, that he would need 100 for the special town meeting. He returned the same day with the papers. Barbara certified them to discover the petitioner did not have the required number of certified signatures. He had under 10. Board of Selectmen office left a message with his attorney that same day. The special town meeting warrant closed on the 16th. Mr. Nashawati returned a week later on the 21st with additional signatures, 103, that was certified and delivered to the Board of Selectmen office, and many of these signatures were not Abington residents. To be clear, there was no misinformation given to him from the town clerk's office. Mr. Nashawati stated that the clerk's office told him that he needed 10 signatures. This is not a true statement, questioning our ability to effectively do our job while in the middle of a controversial election season is unacceptable. So that's on behalf of Leanne. Like I said, all around there was, I think, a bit of miscommunication. I think it started, obviously with the previous town manager, and it was consideration for an annual town meeting, and we jumped right into a special town meeting. So there was ever, obviously no intention to misdirect Mr. Nashawati, so, just leave it at that. One last item. The drive-up window for tax payments is going to be open on October 19th and available October 19th to the November 2nd. You can use that for your tax payments. You can use it for water, sewer. So we'll have signs up there, especially as we start doing the early voting and people are coming into town hall. We're still restricted to the numbers of people that we can have in here, so we're really encouraging people to use that. And as you can see, we've been doing, brushing up a bit on our social media and Facebook account. We'll be getting some more messages out there to let people know. What I'll probably do is maybe I'll find a way, I'll have someone find a way to, once we do post something, that we'll get copies to you, because I think if each of you put it on your individual selectmen Facebook accounts, that gets a lot more exposure. Maybe we'll sponsor Pizza Boys. So. And that's all I got.
Anything from the board? I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Good night. Thank you.
And before everybody goes, just sign these two, please.